They already have access to the screen. Okay.
Yep.
So are you ready to go?
Ready to go?
Go for it.
Excellent. All right. Well, howdy, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the keynote speaker. We're going to be, Shay and I here are going to be talking about the National Eclipse Ballooning Project, which is a project, as it sounds like, to put up stratospheric balloons during eclipses. I'm Paul. I'm the student lead of the Stratospheric Ballooning Team here at the university. And Shay, who will also be presenting this, is the lead of a sub-team that we have focusing on.
All right, so eclipses are neat. This is why NASA Space Grant and the National Science Foundation have funded the nationwide Eclipse Ballooning Project. This project encourages and supports student eclipse research in order to learn more about ballooning in our environment. So space grants around the country are engaging in this project, as there's funding for training and hardware for up to 70 teams. These teams set up their own payloads that collect data and take cool eclipse footage.
So why do we fly during eclipses? I mean, as we sort of have alluded to, there is cool data you can get, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the really interesting data that you're taking. But really the reason why we've gotten a grant to do this and why we're doing it is to offer people the experience of flying during an eclipse. During the grant that was submitted, that was approved by NASA and the National Science Foundation, there were 3 stated goals. You'll notice that all of them are about engaging people at the collegiate and indeed at the high school levels as well with ballooning and with gathering scientific data. And so the real reason why we're ballooning during eclipses is because it's a really great point to get people involved in technology creation and engineering and science in a way across the entire nation and involved in a big program like this. This is based off of, or at least a continuation even of the National Eclipse Ballooning Project from the 2017 eclipse, which I'm sure many of you recall. During that project, there were, again, a number of teams that all sent up balloons concurrently. You can actually see the photo there of people setting up. That's our University of Minnesota team, although before I got there, setting up 5 balloons that they all launched concurrently to have all in the air during the eclipse. And the idea was that through the path of the eclipse, there were dozens of teams that each launched their own balloons and took data. And for the most part, this data went okay. There were a number of standardized payloads and that were developed by mostly us and the University of Montana, along with some other university co-collaborators. There were a number of workshops to figure out how to use these equipment and to train in other university teams. And then everybody went and flew them all together. And it was a pretty good time. One of the main goals, though, that we didn't quite hit was to live stream 4K video footage down. And this went okay. It turns out it's very difficult to, in particular to getting the antennas to lock well, was a challenge. And so this is something that, as we'll be covering here, we're going to be trying again in future eclipses.
All right, so now we're going to talk about the 2023 and 2024 eclipses. These are the 2 upcoming nationwide ballooning flights. The first one being an annular solar eclipse on 10/14/2023, and then a total solar eclipse on 4/8/2024. The big players in this being Minnesota, Montana, Louisiana, and Maine, kind of working on this project. But there's going to be various different teams setting up along the path of the eclipse, multiple balloons being released with hundreds of them in the air as the eclipse passes over. The idea is that the balloon will sit at altitude and collect data as the eclipse passes. Designs are still kind of being finalized for venting and different methods of operation here, because there's very different factors to be considered. The teams across the US are planning to partake in this project with 2 different path goals in mind.
The first of which is a sort of science-based path. And in this path, the teams will be launching a number of standardized, commercially purchased payloads, which are exemplified by the little box in the bottom right-hand corner. And in particular, what they're looking for is to get a huge number of balloons all near at the same time to take standardized data across the eclipse. And the most exciting data that they're looking for here is measurements of gravity waves. So you can think of this of gravity waves sort of like ocean waves. In fact, ocean waves are a form of gravity wave. And the idea is that as the moon passes over, the shadow of the moon will limit solar heating of the atmosphere. The density of the atmosphere will fall, and then you'll get a moving collapse of the atmosphere layer. And so hopefully we're hoping to see that balloons in the air will fall shortly during the eclipse, and then as the sun moves past, they will rise back up with the atmosphere. This has been measured a little bit in previous eclipses. We were trying to measure it in the 2017 one, but didn't have enough data. And so something that's really exciting about this new effort is that we're going to have so many schools and so many balloons up that we'll be able to measure to get really good data. The second path that we're looking at is the engineering. This is the one that the University of Minnesota, our ballooning team, is really involved with. And the idea behind this is that instead of flying a bunch of pre-built commercially available payloads, all of the teams will be flying similar, but home-built payloads that feature their own custom sensor suites and that are completely designed by students. And so we're going to walk through a little bit the different things that are going into making the engineering path happen here. To start with, we're looking at streaming again. Like I said, it didn't work super great the first time around, but we're going to make it work this time, or at least trying our hardest to. A big part of this is choosing new cameras and antennas, and that's going on right now. And then also we're building new automatically tracking ground stations, and teams that join up with us for the actual Eclipse path will go to a workshop and learn how to use these and to stream video. We're also looking at 360-degree video, which is pretty neat stuff, and will give us a bird's eye view of the entire eclipse.
All right, so for controllers, there are two main ones that might go on an Eclipse flight, and that would be the Megasat or the Pterodactyl. These would be used to take data such as temperature, pressure, time, altitude, humidity, acceleration, and orientation. The controllers are very easy for beginner ballooners. It's fairly simple to collect data and allows you to learn basic skills without getting too complicated. To advance this concept, you can also add your own sensors. The main difference between the Megasat and the Pterodactyl is that the Megasat has an Arduino Mega and the Pterodactyl uses a Teensy. Another consideration for Eclipse ballooning is altitude holding. This is going to be how the balloon stays at altitude to get steady video and take data. We have a few venting systems that we're taking into consideration here. The kind of very pertinent ones are going to be the zero pressure balloon and the vent. The zero pressure balloon kind of self-regulates its helium amounts as altitude changes, and the vent works to physically open and close to release helium. When it reaches equilibrium, the balloon halts at altitude, where our second vent system physically opens and closes to release helium to slow ascent until it stops. Another pretty cool vent idea that we have that is no longer in consideration is the solar vent. It essentially works as a stratospheric hot air balloon, using the sun to heat the balloon and bring it into the stratosphere.
Another part that we're looking at getting into sort of a more mature place is prediction. So there are flight prediction platforms for balloon flights, but they assume that your balloon is going to go straight up, pop, and then come straight back down. And obviously with our flight path where we want to have balloons sit in the air for a long time, those aren't going to be accurate anymore. So we're developing our own flight prediction software that will allow for us to better understand where these balloons are going to go to enable recovery on flight days. You can see here a plot of two different flights. The one that ends in the red tail down by La Crosse is what would happen if you had a regular where it just went up, popped, and came back down. Whereas the very long trail that ends up going into Lake Michigan is what would happen if we were to fly with a vent. If you're interested in flight predictions, there will actually be a, this will be done in an exhibit in the next exhibiting period. Alex will be showing off his work on this. So as we've been sort of alluding to, you can get involved. Shay, you want to talk a bit about this?
Sure. So the U of M is one of several teams who have been chosen to help teach the Eclipse ballooning process to other groups of people. So again, the design is still being finalized, but we're working on the eventing idea. And because we are a pod lead, we are responsible in aiding to teach the other pods our finalized design. We're super excited to help lead this project and get others involved with ballooning. Anything else you want to add to that, Paul?
Yeah, so we're currently in a place where very soon the pod leads, that's us in Montana and a few other schools, will have gotten the design down to a point where we can start accepting other teams and starting to train them up. And so if you're at another school, regardless of if you have ballooning experience or not, we would love to hear from you if you want to be involved in this. You can find out more about it by either coming down to Shay is going to be talking about it at an exhibit at the next exhibiting session, or you can go to eclipse.montana.edu where they have a whole lot of things about it, including information about the 2017 flight, as well as how to get involved on the next one. Cool, thanks for listening. Ooh, we got you out here kind of early. Any questions about the Eclipse ballooning or ballooning?
Thank you, Paul and Shay. Some questions?
Where are balloons going to be launched from exactly? Are there going to be teams spread out through the entire Eclipse path, or is it more focused on a particular area of the country?
No, exactly. If I cycle back here to the Eclipse paths, the way this works is that there are teams that are spread out to a number of locations down the entire path. That way, the idea is you can get sort of continuous data down across the entirety of the United States. The way this happened last time was that teams were assigned locations that were at least has something to do with where they were coming from. I mean, obviously, if you're the Washington Space Grant, you're kind of out of luck on the 2024 Eclipse, but all of us will travel down, get into the path of it, and then fly at predetermined.
Questions? So one question. So the gravity waves that are going to be measured, what part of the atmosphere are we looking at?
As I understand it, and to be fair, the Minnesota team is working mostly on the engineering side, so I hear about the science side mostly hearsay, but the way I understand it is that you're seeing sort of a collapse in the thickness of the stratosphere itself as the density falls with lowering temperature.
Okay.
Again, more can be found at the website, which will definitely have a lot more on the science side.
Around 15 to 20 kilometers from what I recall,
Okay, so
where you get most of your change. So,
all right. So definitely the stratosphere.
yeah.
Right.
All right. I think it's time to go to the next talk. Thanks to speakers again, please.
Thank you.